And it consisted of Mike Peters, and they all had aliases, right? So Mike Peters, alias Eddie Bop. The the aliases are fucking terrible. I mean, every time we've done this in a
Yeah.
band from that era, they're always rubbish. Glenn Crossley was Steve Shock. Richard O'Malley Jones was known as Bo Larks, and Nigel Buckle was known as Des Troy or Destroy.
Yes.
Um, Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy. I want to run. I want to hide. I want to tear down the walls that hold me inside. More on that later. But first, we have a track today that's new, and because it's Friday, yes, it is. We have a track from one of our wonderful viewers, um, Mark Murray, 2235. Accept no substitute. They dropped a comment in episode Chance by Big Country. Wonderful song. And they suggested a sort of band that's not too distant from that, called The Alarm, which I am familiar with. And so Andy should be listening to it, as you
Yeah.
guessed from me doing the opening spiel. The song is Spirit of 76.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
that's a year rather than an age.
Yeah. That's what I had assumed. Not many 76-year-old rock stars out here being like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah, there's a couple that spring to mind that don't seem to die or go away.
Yeah.
Um,
But their spirit is not what it used to be, I would say, for the
no,
most part there.
uh,
Right on. Well,
but
yeah.
have you heard of the alarm?
No, I haven't. I was just about to say it's not even one of those instances where I've heard of them, or maybe heard them in passing, but don't really have any familiar. This is completely flying blind. I've never heard of them before.
Okay.
But you did give me a little clue as to what I might be getting into when you said that it was a decent comp for Big Country, the band on which the episode we did this request was made under. So I will prepare myself for perhaps similar sounds and go off and give this thing a go and then come back and let you and Mark and everybody else know what I made of it. I don't know why, but just this I guess it's kind of that pensive circular acoustic motif and then that harmonica kind of emerging. It kind of reminds me of like being in some rural area and you hear like a freight train off in the distance passing through town and the steam whistle in the form of that harmonica is kind of going off. It has this calm reflective sound to it obviously, but visually that's what comes to mind, and I think it's enhanced by this locomotive movement of the acoustic and somewhat the harmonica as well. But then when it hit those higher notes, that's kind of when it reminded me of kind of like the faint sounds of a steam whistle.
Well, I find myself in reverie about what we might have had and what might have been. We had something going once that was such a long, long time ago. It was way back in 76.
So we get an allusion to the year right there. So Spirit of 76, it's 1976 we're talking about. So that's confirmed. But yeah, it clearly is reflecting back I mean, the name would kind of suggest that anyway, but we're getting like solid confirmation right now in the form of these lyrics.
Our friendship full of pure innocence. We first met in Matthew Street, where we heard something that would set us free. The sign stands over the door, it says, for that who shook the world. In the depths of those heady nights, we would dream of those bright clouds.
I'll pull it back a little bit, but it sounded like there was an allusion to the Beatles, like four lads shaking the world or whatever. So I'm guessing this is like him as a child and his friends learning about the power of rock music and how it can change the world, so to speak.
The sign stands over the door, it says, for that who shook the world. In the depths of those heady nights, we would dream of those bright lights. Oh, my friend, oh, my friend, oh, my friend.
Really love how the electric guitar and the drums synced up rhythmically for that, like the strum pattern and the pattern on the skins of the drum there. It's all like in unison, and it created this larger, stronger force to pull us all into this more progressive part of the song. This part right here, for some reason, reminds me very much of REM, like mid-era REM. It's the tone of that guitar.
When my friend Johnny went away, and he made some mistakes, spent time in Walton Jail. And now when I see him, we still talk, but there's no light shining in his eyes. And Susie, she was 17. World, I swear you'll never see. I was gonna be king and she was gonna be queen, but now all she does is hide behind the tears. If there was more sense in...
Also, Bryan Adams is coming to mind, and so is Bruce Springsteen, which I know is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but that just sort of reminds these Yankee ears of
this world, and work wasn't so hard to find. You would not be going your way, I would not be going mine. Oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Somewhere tonight out on the street, somewhere beneath this city's heat, in the eyes of strangers who pass me by. Well, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, the spirit of 76. And Peter seen his dreams come true, but that don't make him no hero. He's just one of the lucky few.
So earlier in the last verse, he was talking about a John and a Susie who didn't reach their dreams for whatever reason. I think John was thrown in the clink, and I don't know, Susie, who had all the makings of a beautiful young woman, I guess now in fast forward to the time that this is written, is now in tears. I guess for whatever reason, perhaps because she didn't achieve what she wanted to. But now we've got Pete, who sounds like he may have.
If a man can't change the world these days, I still believe a man can change his own destiny. But the price is high, that has gotta be paid. 76. Mercy lights shine in the distance, same as they did for us then. Mercy lights shine bright in the distance. Where are you now, my friend? You see, some nights when I can't sleep, I still think of you. Of all the promises, all the dreams we shared. I know those lights still call to you. I can hear them now. I can hear them now. Ooh, still shining for you. Let 'em shine.
That bass is nice.
Lights is still shining somewhere tonight out on the street. Somewhere beneath this city street, it lies in strangers who pass me by. Oh, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, where's it gone? The spirit of 76.
Yeah, overall that was a pretty decent song. I mean, it was good storytelling, that's for sure, from a lyrical standpoint. The the first part of the bridge, or maybe even like not the very first part, but the part right before the lead came in and they kind of built things back up to the lead, borderline a little 80s schmaltzy for me, like big stadium rock. Yeah, I don't know, just very Brian Adams and some Bruce Springsteen in there as well, which aren't always my bag. But there's so many other really good to borderline great parts in this song for me that's enough for me to look away, or not completely dismiss the track. I mean, there's some really great lyricism in there. I loved all of the rapid fire snare stuff that happened. Some really good guitar work throughout this too. Even in the part that I wasn't really wild about in the bridge, they were doing these nice little accent touches on the guitar and the tinkling of the piano notes here and there to accent, and kind of punctuate the mood that they were building in that part. And I appreciate that. I just think that this might be one of those bridges where I align more with John's opinion on bridges as a whole, where this is not exactly my bag. But I do, and also I'm not from this generation, and I'm sure at some point that if it hasn't already been done, folks are gonna write the child of the 80s version of this song, and it might resonate with me in the next 10 years or so. But this does remind me of like the same kind of nostalgia that the summer of '69 would kick up. This sort of spirit of '76 just seems like a similar kind of approach to songwriting, where we're going to reflect back and really market this nostalgia and package this nostalgia in the form of this song to kind of traffic it out there and get people to connect with it because they grew up in similar times or maybe with similar dreams. 76, you're only talking about a little over a decade of the Beatles having broken and becoming this huge thing, and all the other bands that came along at that time that came out. I mean, we've talked about like the Kinks and the Stones. I think you could say that the Animals were another one of those bands where everybody was just, hyper fixated on these like 4 or 5 piece rock bands. And this new paradigm shift in popular music and pop culture. And kids wanted to be part of that. They still do. Maybe not. And it wasn't as fresh as it was back then. And creating dreams and then aspiring to reach those dreams. And like he illustrates in the song, more often than not, you fall short of achieving those dreams. Every once in a while, one will slip through the cracks, but more often than not, they don't. They don't ever reach what they want to or aspire toward, which I think is very relatable. And like I said, even though I'm not from this generation, I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm going to want this at some point in my life. I'm going to want my version of this, and to connect with it. And I can understand why people would. But yeah, really interesting song, really well written from a lyrical standpoint, very easy to follow. It's I think an understandable sentiment that is fairly accessible and universal. So smart for them to achieve it in a really well packaged way through this song. But yeah, let's get back to John and discuss the alarm so I can learn a bit more.
Umberto Eco is back. So you've had a listen to Spirit of 76 by The Alarm. Don't know why I said it like that. What do you think of it?
It's interesting. This reminds me. This is a pleasant listen, but it does remind me of stuff that I've heard before, which I will get into. And I could see why you would have prefaced this with like the comp between them and Big Country, in that a discovery I had back when we did Big Country was that they had sort of this stadium rock kind of fairly radio friendly kind of sound to them. And I think that you could definitely describe this song. I don't know enough about The Alarm to talk about their entire discography or whatever, but this song definitely had shades of that going on in it. And it begins with this pensively like circular acoustic guitar motif, followed by the emergence of a harmonica. And as I sit and listen to this opening salvo, my mind is taken to the scenes of like a rural town with a locomotive chugging along the track somewhere off in the distance. Obviously, we're not talking about a high-speed train. We're talking about an old freight train. Uh, and even the higher notes on the harmonica could be interpreted as like the sounds of a steam whistle, again, in the distance. This isn't like right by your ear or anything, but it had that kind of, I don't know, it painted that picture for me. And I think it all had to do with this sort of chugga, 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 chugga kind of circular motif that's going on musically. And then over the top of the canvas that is this motif, a piano begins to paint these thoughtful, tinkling notes, and now the singer joins the mix. And even before the singer joins the mix, I mean, this has all the makings of, a song that looks back and not forward, or even in the here and now. This is very reflective, all of it. And so go ahead.
Just the sort of piano runs is almost short form for "We're going to remember now."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's like the flashback motif, but in a
it's really
very,
pleasant. It's really
yeah,
nice, but you're completely taken to what's going to happen next. We're going to look back and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And with just a couple lines of exposition, we get validation for all of that pensive and thoughtful sounding music as the narrative takes a very same tone. He sings of reflecting back on what we might have had and what we might have been, adding that we had something going once that was such a long, long time ago, back in 76. So, yeah, reflecting so much that we're drilled down to the year, that, as if the title didn't give it away. So there's this real sense of looking back on life and what could have, should have, or would have happened. I think that is a very universal feeling, these moments of reflection, especially amongst folks of a certain age. And he sings of friendship born of pure innocence and of being set free upon hearing about four lads who shook the world. I assume this is an allusion to them as youths hearing of the impact made by the Beatles, and how they dreamed of capturing that same lightning in a bottle that the Fab Four had over a decade before. I will say, like, this song has that 80s stadium rock sound, but I found it, the one thing I do find interesting is like to write a song reflecting back on the year 76, not far enough away for it to truly be the nostalgic tone that's struck in this track. Does that make sense? Like what I'm trying to, it's not, there's not enough distance between 76 and the era that it sounds like this was written for there to be that much nostalgia built. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this did come out like 8 years later or 9 years after 76 or whatever, but it just feels like someone decades removed from 76 looking back at it. So I thought that that was kind of interesting that it sounds of an era, and yet it would be odd to write this reflective of a song in that era because there's not enough time has been removed. There's not enough emotion that has been stirred up in the years past. But that's a little odd gap in all of this for me, that maybe you can help me out when it it gets to you filling me in on all these missed items that I've glanced over or didn't think deeply enough about in my one listen. But and just as the first half of the verse shifts into the second half, there is this injection of a little symphonic resonance in the form of what sounds like high stretched violin notes or a facsimile thereof. And as the verse resolves on the final "Oh my friend," we're left with a pregnant pause over a bit of resonant note before the drum beats and a rhythmically aligned strum pattern of the guitar pound away, injecting some much needed energy into the number, transitioning it from a reflective sound to a lively progressive one. And there is some lovely bright guitar work featured in the wake of this transition, and the song, and for some reason it's the tone of the guitar in this moment that really reminds me of like mid-era REM, which I didn't think I was going to get in any of the song, but that for a moment, a rather fleeting moment, that comes to mind. But as the subsequent verse unfolds and that guitar tone is intermingled with all this other stuff, and it's his vocal approach as well, I'm taken away from Georgia and I'm dropped into New Jersey as I start to feel very much Springsteen sounds to
I
this.
knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Oh,
Bruce isn't the only one that comes to mind. We could continue to head north up to Canada, and I could tell you about how Bryan Adams comes to mind when I listen to this song as well, because we have the summer of '69 and the spirit of '76, and there are more than just the similarities of their titles at play here. It's the whole same mentality is wrapped up in it. Let me look back at a year and reflect and be nostalgic. We have the same thing going on here as we do there. So it's not solely Bruce, but there's some of that, the way Bruce can talk about small town, real human issues, which isn't for me. I find it like 90% of it schmaltzy, which is unfortunate because at times I felt that about this song as well. But I think that there's more redeeming stuff happening here than there is in a lot of Bruce stuff. So I will, sneak that in there as well. But yeah, those are some of the bands and regions that come to mind as this song is playing out. And in the verse, he provides two bits of anecdotal exposition about folks he knew when he was young and still sees now, and the difference in them. Whether it was John who had made mistakes and spent time in the clink and now no longer has this glint in his eye, or Susie who was once 17 and beautiful and the number one contender to be the queen to our narrator's king, but is now always in tears. They have lost that innocence and that dreamer's quality that he talked about in the opening verse. We get a few more lines, and then there's the verse ends on that same repeated line of "Oh my friend" before it transitions to the chorus singing "Somewhere Tonight." And this was really clear. All the lyrics in this were very clear. Actually, is a super bonus that I was able to pick up on a lot of this stuff. So "Somewhere tonight, out on the street, somewhere beneath the city's heat, in the eyes of strangers who pass me by, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, the spirit of '76." And the music cuts out just before that titular line is dropped, which is followed by some tight raps on the snare. We get a brief little musical interlude here that features this almost spring-like boing guitar sound, which is featured a couple times, and I'm pretty sure it is just the use of the whammy bar deployed at the right moment, but it gives this bounce to the resonant guitar sound. And from here we get another stanza of verse, this one focused on Pete, who, unlike his counterparts from the previous verse, has achieved his dreams from 76. But that doesn't make him a hero, according to our narrator. It just makes him one of the lucky ones. He also notes that for every Pete, I'm paraphrasing here, but that for every Pete, there are loads of Johns and Susies, whose dreams end up smashed on the funeral pyre. But he professes that he will never give in, despite all the anecdotal evidence, and insists he will find independence and carve out a future with his own two hands before repeating the "Oh, my friend" line again, preparing us for another chorus. And that chorus is followed by a series of snare strikes, which then gives way to this ballad-like bridge. And I must be honest, during most of this, I was having a real John moment where I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but at this point, this is firmly crossed the line into like the cheesyville for me. The bridge is a little too on the nose, 80 schmaltz. And this is the one part where I was like, oh, the rest of it I very much enjoyed. And even before it really culminated in the cheesiness, I liked it. And then how they built it into that lead afterward, I really enjoyed. But there was a strong portion of there where I was like, ugh. But yeah, I really did enjoy the build up into that lead guitar portion, and for some reason at this point, even though it was a lead, the bass became the most clear to me. So it was really nice to hear what the bass was doing beneath that lead as well. And then this gives way into the final chorus. So overall, decent song, but not one that really captivated me. I would imagine that if I had grown up in this generation, it might resonate with me a bit more, and that there will probably be some 80s baby iteration of this song written, if it hasn't already been, that I will connect to the way probably folks who grew up during this era can connect with this one. So I respect that and know that I will probably find myself in a similar boat, but just not with this song because I'm not of this era. But yeah, just as Bryan Adams' Summer of '69 might resonate with me if I had been born of that era, this one didn't resonate with me as much, but I respect the fact that it probably did with many people, and I can totally understand why, given this nostalgia factor and that people lived this life and had shared this dream that he talks about being so elusive throughout the track. So yeah, I enjoyed the listen. I'm not sure how quick I would be to reach for this again, but it was an enjoyable listen, and I'd like to learn more about the Alarm, and maybe what your take is on it, or if there's tracks that you would suggest by them that I should go off and listen to. So please tell me a bit more, John.
So that, Andy, interesting. Yeah. So, couple of things. I was never a big fan of the Alarm. I didn't dislike him. I just, wasn't a follower or whatever. There's a guy I used to work with who was a fan of the Alarm, big time. Yeah, he almost like sort of like joked about it like it was a sort of a self-harm thing. Really good, funny taste. But yeah, it's really interesting, this song. I've not heard it in ages until I started the research for it. And it struck me a couple of things. It came out in '85. So that's 9 years after
Yeah.
76.
It's interesting.
Which in terms of musical, if you're in a band, 9 years, well, that's as long as the Beatles lasted.
Yeah.
So that is a lifetime in that sort of sense.
A band
And when you
perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. So you look back on it as, when they started, Beatles in 62 or 61 compared to 1970, very different people.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. The thing for me that's 76 is obviously a period that's personal to them, but I think of 76 and I just think of punk straight away, and this is so far away from any of that. And it really, and rather than even mention what was going on in 76 in terms of the shake-up and the DIY approach and all that sort of stuff and opportunities and getting out there, they talk about the Beatles, which you could argue at that time didn't have much relevance in '76. That was not really on the lips of the people who were, causing the change in music. So it's just a really interesting take, but it makes it a very personal thing.
It is. I wonder, John, is that do you think people take an implied insult if they are like punk fans that this song seems to reflect back on a genre that didn't really influence punk a whole lot? And while overlooking the fact that we were on the verge of a revolution in rock music that would be the punk sound, this doesn't really seem to allude or embrace that in any way, shape, or form. And the packaging of it is very anti-punk.
Yeah. I think anyone who's really into punk wouldn't give a shit,
That's
but
fair.
but also I think they reflect because you can argue 76, definitely 77, a lot of punk was over, and what came in was the replacement, like we talked about with grunge and the replacement for, the proper stuff like Mudhoney. You got this other shite. But it happened in different areas of the country. Back then as well, you didn't have instantaneous communication everywhere, no mobile phones, no internet, all that sort of crap. So you would have pockets of this springing up. And so punks, London, Manchester, and then outwards as the Pistols went round. And they're almost like they were dropping seeds as they did their, ill-fated tours of chaos, that people would see these, and then they would pick up, and the DIY thing was the thing that then made them go. So there's certain pockets of the country which were much more behind, and it would be a couple of years by the time they picked up on it. And by that time, it's no longer the spirit of '76, is it? And I think that probably is a bit of reflection in there. But yeah, and the other thing was you mentioned Bryan Adams, Summer of '69, and that was written the year before in '84. And it's just weird how the two are close together, isn't it? And it is. And it has a bit of an American sort of, I know this is not in any way meant to be, but sort of mainstream, or you can say middle of the road or whatever, sort of, American rock, sort of mainstream rock sound to it a bit. The nice thing they have as well is that mixture of acoustic and electric guitars, which is always a winner to my ears.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting into the much loved band, actually, The Alarm, and from humble beginnings. So they were a Welsh rock band that formed in Rhyl in 1981, and they're known as an alternative rock, new wave at the beginning, and post-punk. So in '77, a year after this song was set, there was a punk band in Rhyl called The Toilets. And it consisted of Mike Peters, and they all had aliases, right? So Mike Peters, alias Eddie Bop. The aliases are fucking terrible. I mean, every time we've done this in a band from that era, they're always rubbish. Glenn Crossley was Steve Shock. Richard O'Malley Jones was known as Bo Larks. And Nigel Buckle was known as Des Troy, or Destroy.
Yeah.
So in '78, I love this because they're all over the fucking shop. In '78, the band renamed themselves Quasimodo. And they played note for note covers of The Who's Live at Leeds album with an additional guitarist called Dave Sharp. This group also included Carla Wellinger on keyboards, and he was in the Waterboys and then sort of band leader for World Party. So fond memories of him. More on him later in another episode. Later on, the group then called themselves 17. Anyway, the band split, and they soon reformed under the new name, The Alarm. And Nigel Buckle changed his surname to Twist, so he was Nigel Twist. And they played their first ever gig in June '91. So lineup was Mike Peters vocals, Dave Sharp guitars, Eddie McDonald bass, Nigel Twist drums, Rupert Black keyboards. And for this song on the album, Anonymous harmonica. Who knows what there's to treat. So the band, as they get going, they moved to London in September '81. And they record a one-off 7-inch single, 1,000 copies, whatever. They play it gets noticed a little bit, and someone in a very small magazine makes it single of the week. They then play a show with The Fall, The Mighty Fall, as their proper title, in December '81. So again, this is pretty quick. The first year of them being around.
Yeah.
They've played a gig, they've done a crappy single, they moved to London, they play with The Fall, and a journalist from Sounds notices them. This journalist goes to their next show, which is in London's West End. And also at the show is a representative of Wasted Talent, who arranged a meeting between the band and Ian Wilson, who was U2's agent. Wilson arranged another show in order to assess the band's quality and was so impressed he became their manager. And to celebrate, the Alarm played with U2 at the Lyceum Ballroom in December '81. So, by the end of '81, they got a manager sharing the stable with U2.
I'm wondering, does this cluster of factoids influence the Easter egg song the lyrics that you quoted at the beginning of this episode?
Who knows? Who knows? Am I that planned?
The only person who knows is that harmonica player who will never get to the bottom of.
And of course, I had him killed. Anyway, in 1982, the band started to record some demos for various record labels, but had little success. At this point, they were playing with 3 acoustic guitars, and they were eventually offered a deal by IRS Records, favorite of the channel, and that forced them to make a decision on who's going to play what. So the end of that lineup, they said, so Peter's concentrate on singing, sharp guitar, McDonald bass, etc. So then in June '83, the Alarm embarked on their first tour of the US, supporting U2 on the War Tour, which I guess that's like, Under Blood Red Sky live at Red Rocks, that time. So that would have been something else.
I would imagine.
Following the tour, the band returned to the UK and began working on their first album. They did some sessions, then they flew back to America, and they started their first headlining American tour. And they also, I don't know how big that was, but they also played in support of the Pretenders as well. So they're moving in all the right circles.
They're hitching their star to some pretty, popular bands at that point.
Exactly.
So that's pretty great.
Well, one of their singles, 68 Guns, was released in September '83, and it charted the following week at number 50. That same week, the band performed the song on Top of the Pops in the UK, and the song climbed into the top 20. It remains their highest charting single, peaking at number 17. The debut album, Declaration, followed afterwards in February '84, and the album entered the charts at number 6 in the UK. The second album, Strength, was released in '85 and was another UK success, but it also brought them into the top 40 of the US Billboard 200 album charts for the first time, and that's where the money is. Additionally, the third single from the album, Spirit 76, peaked to the dizzying heights of number 22 in the charts, which is what you just listened to. Okay. So we go into the song lyrics. A couple of bits in there which you might not have picked up, but you obviously, I think you did most of it. So, well, I find myself in a reverie about what we might have had and what might have been. We had something going once that was such a long, long time ago. It was way back in '76. Our friendship formed of pure innocence. We first met in Matthew Street. Matthew Street is where the cabin was in Liverpool.
Okay, gotcha.
Street.
Yeah, I heard the Matthew Street, but I didn't know how important it was or why it was important. Way back in '76 is like a wild way to phrase something that you're only 9 years removed from or whatever. So.
It's perspective. If you don't plan to live past 27, that's way back.
I guess, yeah.
Well, we heard something that was set us free. A sign stands over a door. It says, "4 lads who shook the world." In the depths of those heady nights, I would dream of those bright lights. Oh, my friend, oh, my friend, oh, my friend. Just to say, actually, and Andy knows this, I was up in Liverpool back in March, and we were out for the evening, had a meal, and colleagues of mine said, "Let's go to the Cavern." And I was like, oh, no, this is going to be an evening of tackiness and disappointment. And we went to the Tavern. I had a fucking brilliant night. It was really, really good. And I was really impressed with the place. Took loads of pictures. And if you're in Liverpool and you get the chance to go to the Cavern, do so. You'd be an idiot not to, because it is really, really good. Anyway, and my friend John, he went away. He made some mistakes, spent some time in Walton jail. And now when I see him, we still talk. But there's no light shining in his eyes. And Susie, she was 17 and more beauty in this world. I swear you'll never see. I was going to be king and she was going to be queen. But now all she does is hide behind the tears. If there was more sense in this world and work wasn't so hard to find, you wouldn't be going your way. I would not be going mine. Oh, my friend, oh, my friend, oh, my friend. Somewhere tonight, out on the street, somewhere beneath this city's heat, in the eyes of strangers who pass me by, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, oh, the spirit of 76. And Pete has seen his dreams come true, but that doesn't make him no hero. He's just one of the lucky few. If a man can't change the world these days, I still believe a man can change his destiny. But the price is high that has got to be paid for everyone who survives. There are many who fail. I see my friends caught out in that crossfire. All their dreams and hopes smashed on the funeral pyre. I'll never give in until the day I die. I give myself some independence, carve out a future with my two bare hands. Oh, my friend, oh, my friend, oh, my friend. Somewhere tonight, out on that street, somewhere beneath this city's heat, in the eyes of strangers who pass me by, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, the spirit of 76. Mersey lights shine in the distance, same as they did for us then. Mersey lights shine bright in the distance. Where are you now, my friend? You see, some nights when I can't sleep, I still think of you. Of all the promises, all our dreams we shared. I know those lights still call to you. I can hear them now, I can hear them now. Oh, still shining for us. Let them shine. Can you hear them? Can you hear them? Lights are shining. Somewhere tonight, out on the street, somewhere beneath this city's heat, in the eyes of strangers that pass me by, life is cruel and so unkind. Oh, where's it all gone? The spirit of 76. So, yeah, I think listening back on it, I haven't heard this in I don't know, 15, 20 years. It's the nice thing about it is the musically, it's not that dated because it's a fairly simple, straightforward song. It could be, apart from the title, obviously, it could have been written in 72, 82, 92, really.
Yeah.
And the sentiments are quite universal as well as, obviously life moves on and the change. He's fixed a time and point in our minds by calling it the spirit of 76, but it could be the spirit of anything, really. But obviously they had a seminal moment in their lives when they went to Liverpool, and that's resonated back through the decades.
Just shy of. I will say that the best part about this song, from my opinion, is how well articulated the sentiments are. That it's rather, for me anyway, unmistakable what they're trying to convey in the story that they're trying to tell, and it's really accessible and easy to not only understand from, like, just listening to it as it unfolds, but to relate to as well. Like, yes, I know I'm not of this, but I know it is relatable. I know that I will have a version of this, and I know that there were probably things that came before it where there are these songs that capture nostalgia so well that they speak to an entire generation. And I could see how an entire generation of folks from the UK would relate to this song and sort of gravitate toward it.
Yeah, and I think that the one of the things about the Alarm, and I say this as someone who isn't a particular fan, is I think they come across as a really sort of straightforward and honest band. There's no sort of edge to them. So this could be really schmaltzy, but it isn't. And I think when he's singing stuff and other songs that I know of theirs, people buy into it readily because it sounds really honest, which is, a big thing, really. It's hard to do.
Also, I'd rather have someone call a bridge in my song schmaltzy than call the entire thing and me pretentious. Like, which is the opposite side of that relatability that you're describing. You know what I mean? The opposite of that is, they're these pompous assholes that are so far up their own that they don't understand how they're not relatable and how pretentious they come across. So
Sure. Yeah.
they don't smack of that at all.
Back to the story of the band. So they toured extensively through the United States and Europe through the 80s into 91. And they gained much popularity, particularly in 83, when they were the opening act for U2, who were a band that they were often compared to musically. I guess early U2 anyway.
Yeah.
1989's album Change was a homage to the group's native Wales, and they also put out a sort of alternative version, which was totally Welsh language as well, called Nechwyd. Apologies. Yeah, produced by Tony Visconti, Bowie's producer of choice usually. Change also spawned the group's biggest modern rock hit in America, Sold Me Down the River, which also put them in the US Billboard Hot 100 Top 50 for the first and only time. After the release of the album Raw in 91, despite their success and relative longevity, Peters announced on stage at the Brixton Academy that he was leaving the band. And he said into the mic on stage, "We've shared some great moments in time over the last 10 years, and tonight I would like to thank all the people who supported me from the beginning to the end. Tonight is my last moment with the Alarm. I'm going out in a blaze of glory. My hands are held up high." This came as much of a shock to his colleagues as to the audience. They didn't know he was going to say that. Following the show, Peters signed his legal right to 1/4 of the Alarm name and logo over to the other three. So fair play to the guy. Didn't have to do that. That's yeah. Peters and Sharp both embarked on solo careers. After the Alarm, Peters teamed with a band of unknown musicians to form the Pose of Justice, which included his wife, Jules Peters, on keyboards. He embarked on a solo career, which was a number of singles and albums. In 2000, the Alarm released a sort of complete compilation covering all recorded material by the band, included loads of new sleeve notes, which all four members have contributed. It's the first project which all four original members had been involved in since Peters left in 91. Following that box set release, as so often is the case, it becomes a catalyst for more activity. Peters used the Alarm name to tour to promote the complete collection release. The musicians Peters used was his backing band in the late 90s, and so they called themselves the Alarm, followed by MM++, to indicate in Roman numerals what year the record was recorded. In February 2004, Peters' lineup of Alarm MM++ carried out a hoax on the British music industry by issuing the track 45 RPM under the fictitious name The Poppy Fields. Peters had actually received positive feedback for the song, and he decided to disassociate it from his veteran band and have it judged its own merits, and recruited a young group called the Wayriders to lip sync the song in the music video. The so-called Poppy Fields took 45 RPM into the UK top 30 before the hoax was revealed, set the stage for an album called In the Poppy Fields, which I think is quite funny. Just shows a lot of its attitude, isn't it?
Yeah.
In 2005, Peters was discovered that he was suffering from chronic lymphocytic leukemia. At this time, he started a cancer foundation called Love, Hope, Strength to help with the fight against cancer. In October 2007, Peters, along with 38 other musicians, cancer survivors and supporters, made a 14-day trek to the base camp of Mount Everest to perform the highest concert on land to raise awareness of money to fight cancer. 2013 saw the release of Vinyl, the album, which featured tracks written for the soundtrack album and performed by Mike Peters and the Alarm, with guest vocals from the film's actors Phil Daniels and Keith Allen. The film, written and directed by Sarah Sugarman, is loosely based on the true events surrounding the Poppy Fields and the release of the single 45 RPM, which I think is quite cool.
Yeah.
And then 29th of April 2025, Peters died after his long battle with cancer. So 20 years after diagnosis.
That's a good fight.
That's a really good fight. From 2025 onwards, Evan, Mike Peters' son, has fronted shows as The Alarm, presented by Ian Peters and Eddie McDonald, and has founded The Alarm 2.0, joined by Smiley, James Stevenson, and Matt Peach and Craig Adams. Historian Martin Jones has argued that the band are part of the contemporary history of Wales. His case is based on how The Alarm reflected cultural trends within Wales, and the band is discussed in his book. There's just then a nice little quote from AllMusic that stated, "The British music press habitually savaged their records as derivative and pretentious, but this meant little to their zealous following, who supported the band to the tune of over 5 million sales worldwide
Yeah.
and 16 top 50 UK singles." So, yeah, I would say that they became pretty unfashionable mid to late 80s onwards, you know, much like U2 did a few years later. You know, they
Yeah.
had the biggest selling album in the world in the Joshua Tree, and then within 18 months they were old news. It was bizarre. But as I said, that's a nice sort of epitaph for him and his work, you know. And I think that's why they have such a steady following, you know, this authenticity
Yeah.
of his voice. And it may not be the most, you know, groundbreaking or original sounds, but you can quite see how it, you know, brings a lot of pleasure to a lot of people quite easily.
Absolutely. Yeah. For
Cool.
sure.
All right, I shall wrap things up. Thanks for listening to us, Andy.
Yes, sir.
And also thank you very much to Mark Murray 2235
That's right.
for suggesting it in the first place. Yeah, this is a good shout. I enjoyed
Yeah,
this actually. I really did. Been a long time since I listened to some of the alarm. So yeah, thanks for that. Folks out there, please tell us what you think. If you enjoyed this, please do hit the like button and show your appreciation, and also drop comments. We'd love to hear what you think about this. The alarm, 68 guns, etc. I'm sure there's other stuff out there that's worth listening to, so I want you to suggest it. Just drop the comments and we'll add it to the list. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Really appreciate everybody who does join on board. It helps the channel in so many ways, till we can finally create our own republic. And if you want a song of your own to be done on a Friday, please drop a comment in any of the episodes. We will fish it out, particularly if it's a stinker. And we'll add it to the list. And provided neither of us have heard of it, one of us hasn't heard of it, then we shall do it somewhere down the line when we get to it on the list. That being said, though, thanks so much for watching. And we'll see all of you on the next episode of The Audiophiles.
Have a great weekend, guys.